Welcome back inside Trailblazer Weekly as we march on a Wednesday afternoon. Coming at you live from the CEC TV studios on CEC TV, the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page, as well as Radio Dixie 91.3 FM. Being joined now by head basketball coach John Judkins. Thanks so much, Coach, for being on our show today.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Good season already is underway, and we're already a couple weeks into it. It seems hard to believe that we're already a couple weeks into basketball season as the calendar turns to December, and his team is off to a great start already, a 6-0 start, obviously beginning conference play just this last weekend with a win over Westminster College 74-63, and got your RMAC conference schedule off and running. Let's just talk a little bit about, just jump right in and get your thoughts so far on the first few games of the season and a 6-0 record so far, and a nationally ranked basketball team. Just kind of give us some your thoughts so far on the other season.
Well, it's been good. I've been impressed with a lot of our new players. We have 8 new players from last year. So when you have a new squad, it takes a little while to get going. We've changed a lot of stuff. Our offense is a lot different than it was last year. We have more stretch 4s, stretch 3s, guys that can shoot the 3 a little bit more. We're not as big and bulky and strong as we were in the past. So we've kind of changed it a little bit that way, and that's kind of how the basketball game's going now, is you see a lot more 3s and stretch 4s instead of power 4s. Can you see Carl Malone being a stretch 4 nowadays in these days? But we still like to go inside. I mean, we got Hunter and Jared that are playing really well for us inside, but the game has changed a lot. But I've been really impressed with of how they've learned. Like you said, going 6-0 is great. A great start, but we're not even close to where we need to be. But last weekend playing Westminster, I saw some spark. I saw some things that got me really excited. Scouting report. I mean, we saw Westminster for the whole month of November. They saw us. We were at their tournament, then they were at our tournament, then we went back to their tournament. And so we knew a lot of stuff that they were doing, but our guys adjusted. We tried some things and it worked, and they bid into us. And once you get your players to trust you and believe in you, it makes it a lot more fun to coach. And that's what I saw on Saturday, which was huge.
You mentioned obviously a lot of new faces on this year's team, and every year you graduate a few people, and then this year had a few players decide not to come back for whatever reason. How is it each and every year, and I've talked about this on the show, that no matter who you put out on the floor every night or every season, you always seem to be able to put the best pieces together and have a successful program regardless of who's out there. How is it that you are able to do this every single season, that you can kind of just put the pieces together and plug and play regardless of who comes back or who you have on the team every year?
Well, if I tell you that, I'm going to have to kill you. No. First of all, it starts with coaches. I got 2 new coaches this year with Jake Schroeder coming back from 6 years ago. He left here and went to Bingham High School and did really well up there, and then he decided he wanted to get back into college. And then I got Andrew May from BYU, was a ops guy there, and he brings some of that experience from that Division I stuff, which is nice. I think that helps a lot. But also recruiting, you find the kids that you think you can coach. You don't go out, when I go out and recruit, I don't go out and say, okay, that kid's the best player, we're going to get him. We go out and find the best we can, but also ones that will fit us, ones that will fit our system, and guys that can shoot, guys that are team players, guys that will defend. Those are the guys, like to be physical. Those are the kind of guys that we try to find, and so far it's been good. They've gelled in really well with it. Some they come here and they don't realize how hard it is. I mean, it's a full-time job. Playing college basketball now, it's a full-time deal, and they don't realize how intense it is. It's not come in for 2 hours and then go hang out with your friends. It's a long week for us, and these guys have jumped into that. But I appreciate that. That's one thing we try to do, is just we bring new guys in, and 8 new guys. We have 3 that played a lot last year with Jack and Andre and Cam, and then Josh and Jacob didn't see as much time, but now they're starting to see a little bit more time. But Frank, as a freshman, has played really well for. He reminds me a little bit of Trevor Hill his freshman year, that people are like, wow, that guy's a freshman and he doesn't play like a freshman. That's a good sign. And then Hunter, a JC kid that just comes in, and I look at his stats, and he hasn't got player of the game yet, but his stats are, he's in there 15, 16 points a game, 8 or 9 rebounds a game. He's had a really good year for us, and he's just going to get better and better, no question.
We're chatting with Dixie State men's basketball head coach John Judkins, and maybe I shouldn't bring this up so early in the interview, but it seems like that exhibition loss to Providence, it doesn't count the win-loss, but do you look at that as something that maybe you're going to be able to go back to later in the in the year, and maybe even right now, and circle that and say, hey, this was a huge turning point for us, and we learned a ton from that game. Do you see that game in that way?
Yeah.
You never like to lose, even in exhibition, but
yeah, yes and no. I think sometimes I'd like to try to learn from games you win. Maybe you barely win a game or something, and you use that better than a loss. But sometimes a loss wakes your kids up. There's no question. You hit that around the head, and I didn't know if the guys knew it was an exhibition game or not. After the game was over, the next day we talked about, a lot of them knew that, and so I kind of thought they didn't really come ready to play, But I took it as a real game, and I want to win every game, exhibition, scrimmages, whatever it may be. You want to play your very, very best, and so I kind of got on pretty good. But I think they realized that, hey, you just can't show up and think you're going to win. And we knew that team was good. When we signed them to come play us, I even told Norm Parrish at Westminster hey, be ready. This team's good. We try to bring in the best we can, and they gave them a good run too as well. So it happens, but sometimes on a loss like that, it does wake them up, and it's just nice that it didn't count against us. And we got another one like that in December before the season starts back up after Christmas on the 30th. 30th we play another one like that, and hopefully our guys will adjust to that. But they've responded really well, and we've played some really good teams in preseason with the Texas schools, and then last weekend or at home. But then up at Westminster, we played up there and played two good teams up there with Fairbanks, Alaska Fairbanks, and in Lake Superior State, who beat Westminster too. They're solid. They're a very good team. So we've had a good preseason, and we always say we want to play the best we can preseason to get us ready for conference play. And now here's conference that fast with Westminster last week, and now we got two here coming home that are very good teams. Black Hill State, who beat us really bad last year. Welcome to the RMAC is kind of how we felt. And so we know we got our hands full this weekend, but we're excited, and I think we'll definitely get our guys ready to play.
It'd be nice to not have to start conference play until after Christmas next year, but we're in the thick of things right now. And we talked about all the new faces. We talked about how much change from last year to this year. The one constant is the team still having success. When you look at this first, you've been with the team through practice as well, but through these first 6 games and the 6-0 start, what are some of the questions that maybe you had before the season that have been answered to this point in the season?
Well, again, just anytime you have new guys coming in, it's just, can they play together? Can they share the ball? Because you guys got to understand that every player comes and plays in college, they were their stars on their team before, and so how many can handle their role if they're not starting or if they're not that person? That's always a scary part of that, because some of these guys have never sat the bench before in their life, and so it's a new thing for them. But this team has been good that way. Defensively, I thought we'd be pretty solid. We've changed some things defensively a little bit to help us. I mean, that's what I think a good coach is, and I think our staff's doing a great job is adjusting to what you have. If you got a big, slow team, you can't press. You can't do it, and so we adjusted to what we feel these guys could be really good at, and they're still learning. We're still making a lot of mistakes, but those parts are the things I was really excited about to see them when they came in. And we can't wait till Division I where we can actually practice more, start earlier. Some of these games, we had 13 practices, and the other teams we played had 30 practices. So it was different, and but these guys are handling it, and they're fun to coach, and they practice. You've been in practice; they get after it, and I'm big into coming in and practicing hard for an hour or two and get out. I'm not a guy that wants to spend 3 or 4 hours in the gym. Hey, let's go hard, let's go fast, let's get it done, and let's get out. So, and that's what they've been doing.
Seems like one constant, not only this season, but at least in the time that I've been around the program, which has been about 4 or 5 years now, is the point guard position. And you can think back, a couple years ago, Money Mason Sawyer, and then a few years after that, Brandon Simmons ran the team for a couple years. Last 2 seasons, it's been Jack Payton, and he's been absolutely sensational. Last season, he was great, and then this year, obviously, he's been out to a great start, averaging 9.5 points, 8 assists, and 9 rebounds per game. So he's right in that kind of triple-double range. change. I don't want to put any added pressure on him. Obviously, he doesn't need that. But it seems like that's kind of a position that you like to kind of have control over, and certainly a position that has been playing well for you over the previous handful of seasons. And just talk a little bit about what Jack Pagenkoff has meant to this team and kind of just running the offense. And, I'm one that likes to argue that the point guard is the most important player on the court, because he's kind of the one that brings the ball up the floor and sets up the offense and just kind of controls the tempo. And Pagenkoff's a guy that likes to kind of get up the floor and run and try to break the defense in that way. What has he kind of been meaning to your team and the success that they've had this season?
He's been great. He spent the time this summer working on his game, and that first year. Last year, I think it takes a while to get going. What is he? He's probably thinking, what does Coach want me to do? And he's adjusted to things that we've wanted him to do. This year, you see it. He's so close to a triple-double every game. He had one already. In Salt Lake, he had one assist away from another one. It's kind of like football. He's your quarterback. He's a guy that gets you in stuff. He's your leader. He's that way, and he's done a really good job with that. I'm on him all the time, and I told him, I said, point guards, quarterbacks, whatever, the coaches are always on you because you have the ball 90% of the time. You need to make sure we're doing the right stuff. And he's caught on from last year to this year. Okay, coach wants me to do this at this situation, and he's just grown from it. But he's having start with the 6 games. He's having a great year so far. We got to get him shooting better. He's been in the gym. He's got to be more consistent on his threes. One game he'll make all of them. The next game he won't make any. But we watched film yesterday with him, and some of the ones that he's missed, they're a little tougher shots. The ones he's made, he's let it come to him. That's what we're trying to get him to do. But man, I love the ball in his hand. I love when he pushes. And one thing I told him, I say, I'm playing you probably too many minutes, and I know he didn't want to hear that because they all want to be on the court. But I think sometimes when he gets tired, he's not as effective of pushing that ball, because he can really get to the hole, and he sees the floor really well and finds the open guy. And you look at that first half we had on Saturday, we shot the 3 really well. It was a lot because of him and Dayson, Youngblood, getting to the paint and then making that extra pass out to Frank and to Layton and those guys to hit those wide open 3s. So he's a big part of our team. We got to keep him healthy. That's why I want to cut his minutes down a little bit. I don't want to burn him out and then all of a sudden injuries happen to him, because we need him on the floor.
And now kind of going to the opposite end of the spectrum from Pagenkoff, who's a senior, to Frank Stein, who you mentioned earlier as a freshman, who right now is second on your team in scoring with almost scoring 15 points per game, and has just been a really remarkable, I don't know if you call him a surprise, but at least a great addition to your team this season. Talk a little bit about him and what he's been able to do for your team, and just the kind of trajectory that you see that he's on. So far,
he's done well. We knew he could shoot. When we recruited him, that was the thing we saw. He can score. He can shoot the ball. The things I also like is his size. He's long. He's got good feet. He moves well. Sometimes he needs to work a little harder. That's when I get on him a little bit. Sometimes he takes plays off as a freshman. And in high school, you can get away with that. In college, you can't. And so we've been trying to help him that way. But I think he's going to be, offensively, we want to get him to an all-around player. Right now, he's more of a catch-shoot kind of guy. I want to work with him also of getting to the basket, driving, and that's something he can get better with, because teams right now are going to fly at him and make him put it on the floor, and he's got to do that, and I know he can. And then I want to see him in the rebound. I want to see him at 9-10 rebounds a game, because he's got the length, he's got the size, he can jump. I think he could get 9 to 10 rebounds a game and get some easy baskets. But again, I keep telling myself, slap myself, yeah, he's only a freshman. He's going to get better and better and better. And the 6 games I've seen him play, he's getting better every day. And so I can't wait to see where he progresses by the end of the season. But a lot of people say that, like, well, I just didn't know a freshman could do that. I mean, why not? You know what I mean? That's what we recruit the kids for. And I don't care what age they are. If they feel like they can come in and help us and contribute and do what we ask them to do, they're going to play. And that's exactly what he's done.
I mean, you look at Brandon Simister the year before his mission, and you look at Trevor Hill as a freshman. I mean, it's not that uncommon to see freshmen thriving.
Dalton
Grosskreitz,
he had no idea. Like, I'm going to play up a freshman. It's like, yeah, you're playing. Let's go. And he's like you said, and I play a lot of guys. As I play 8, 9, 10 guys. And so they all got to be ready. And he's done really well.
Talk about a couple more guys that really had an impact, and you hate to leave anybody out. And you've got your returners, and guys like Andre Wilson and Cameron Chatwin still contributing from last year. But you feel like I would be remiss if I didn't mention what Dayson, Youngblood, and Josh Newbould have meant to this team over the first 6 games of the season. Dayson, you mentioned, along with Jack, he's good at penetrating inside and kind of sucking in the defense and distributing, or maybe even finishing on his own, whether it's a layup or the mid-range. And then someone else that has helped make the mid-range game sexy again is Josh Newbould. I mean, he's one that, if you want to talk about a player that will take what you give him, free throw line, elbow jumper over to the left or the right side, he'll take it. And I just feel like those 2 players have been huge for this team. Have you seen that in the same way, and seeing what they're contributing this year?
Yeah, Dayson, I saw some spark in him last year, especially the last game of the season. I thought he played really well. Then Andre's had some injuries at his knees and stuff, and so Dayson's kind of taking that advantage of, hey, he's down, I'm going to jump into that spot, and he's done really well. He's playing the backup point for us right now, as well as the 2. His strengths are obviously he's strong. He can get to the basket. He's very good at finishing, getting to the rim. He's a good rebounder. He needs to, again, be more consistent on his jump shot, and he's spending a lot of time in the gym doing that. Free throws is another one that he struggled with last year, and we've challenged him this year to do better, and he has. But he's just a tough kid. He understands our stuff. I mean, Jake, when he was at Bingham, where Dayson was, he kind of did the same things. Jake kind of took what we did here to there, and now he comes back. So he's pretty familiar with a lot of our stuff that we're doing. I think that helps him. But he's been solid. And then Josh, like you said, he's one that, we know he can score. Josh can score with anybody, shooting the ball. Josh's big issue that we always get on him about was, hey, to stay on the floor, you can't just be an offensive player. You gotta defend, you gotta rebound. And I thought at the end of the season last year, Josh started to see that, and we challenged him this summer. Hey, that's what you got to do, and he's done that. This year he's played some great games. When teams would zone us a lot, man, he would find those holes at that high post like you're talking about, and it was just money. I mean, it's like a layup to him. And he took advantage of that and did really well. So I like having him and Cam, because they both can shoot the perimeter shot. They both just got to work a little bit harder on the defensive end and rebounding, but they do. They both work really hard. But it's nice because one day Josh played well and Cam did, and the next day Cam played well and Josh did. So it's just nice to have those 2 guys like that. And Josh is only a sophomore, so it's going to be nice to see him improve as well. But both Dayson and Josh have really picked up their game this year, no question.
Last thing before we let you go here, is we're running out of time on the segment, and we've talked about so many different players this year, and it's not that it hasn't been that way in the past, but in the past last year it was Matt Conway's the leading scorer. Before that it was Trevor Hill was kind of that scoring lead. It seems like that's really spread out this year, more so than maybe in the past few seasons. Talk about the team chemistry and then maybe that the team is the star mentality that it seems like, at least from outside, that this team is kind of taking that mentality and saying it's not just one guy. We all have to be playing our part in order to get the win. Mm-hmm. How much has that been preached, and how have you seen that team chemistry, build from your perspective through the short few weeks that you get in practice and through these first 6 games of the season?
Well, that's from day one. We talk about that from day one. Is I don't care who scores. I've told them that over and over and over. All I want is to get good shots. And and Jerry Sloan, one of the best coaches around, his big philosophy was, hey, the team that makes the easiest baskets, the more easy baskets you make, you're going to win. I believe that. I think sometimes the threes kind of take out of the game a little bit. They're ready to shoot threes instead of getting layups, which to me they're easier.
You're shooting more this year, though.
Yeah, we are. But again, our team's pretty good at that, and we had to adjust to that. But we talk about, the thing I like about that, about not having one guy, is kind of like the Bill Belichick stuff. You take the best player out of the game. Well, who are they going to take out of us? You know what I mean? If they take this guy out of the game, then we're hoping these other guys step up. And if you look at since I've been here at Dixie State, Matt Conway was our leading scorer last year at 18. We had somebody behind him at 15, 14. I mean, it was not like it's 18 and 5. Do you know what I mean? It's pretty consistent. And normally we have about 3 to 4 guys in double figures every year, which to me is nice. It means we're sharing it. We're fighting what the defense is giving us. Hey, they're taking this away, so let's go to this. And every night somebody else is stepping up, and that's fun. That's fun to coach, and it's fun to watch. And I imagine on the other end it's hard to guard, and that's what we like to see.
Coach, congrats on a great start, and let's keep this thing rolling. We've got the South Dakota teams in this weekend, and then on the road, it'll be interesting to see how the team responds to a road environment other than playing in Salt Lake City. So you've got the two conference games on the road, and then that lone conference game, or that lone game up in Monmouth, Oregon, at Western Oregon. Did we owe them a game back? Is that why we're making just the one trip for the trip for one game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they came to our Thanksgiving tournament last year, and so we promised to go up there again, too, as well. So, yeah, I think the schedule's great for us. I'm glad we're home this week when school's here, but then I looked in the first of the year again over, I think, New Year's, and we have a couple more home games with schools not in. And
big ones, too.
It's tough,
Colorado
tough.
Springs and Mines.
Yeah, some tough games come in. But we know our community's been great. I mean, to be honest, on Saturday's game, there was more people there than I thought. With Thanksgiving and with school being out. This is a fun team to watch. So come out and support it, and we do appreciate everybody who does that. It means a lot to our guys. I mean, to have that home court advantage is huge, and to have 3 home games starting conference is big. We got to take advantage of that. So we're excited. We'll be ready.
Coach, congrats on the great start, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
We got to take a break, but don't go anywhere because we've got a lot more Trailblazer Weekly coming at you right after this timeout.